Hey, good morning, everybody. And first and foremost, Merry Christmas to everyone that is watching the podcast here tonight. I really do appreciate that you wanted to spend part of your Christmas going out and supporting this here on the Any Given Saturday podcast. We do have a good one here because even with Christmas happening, we have a bunch of bowl games happening over the next few games. And what we're going to do is we are going to preview each one of those bowl games that are happening between now and what's going to be happening Thursday. Specifically, we'll take a deeper dive into both the Pop-Tarts Bowl and the Alamo Bowl that is going to be happening Thursday evening. So you have that to look forward to. You also have to look forward to some teams that did end up going ahead and getting some early Christmases. And I'm talking about the teams that did end up winning their respective bowl games on Saturday as well. We got Duke beating Troy 17-10 in the Birmingham Bowl, a game that Duke was not expected to win by odds makers. Duke proved them wrong, so they finished the year 8-5. Northern Illinois was also able to ensure a winning season by beating Arkansas State 21-19. Air Force wins their first game in over a month, and they take down James Madison 31-21. Georgia State, their head coach, gets doused in the Five Guys French fries. They blow out Utah State 45-22. Speaking of blowouts, how about South Alabama blowing out the Eastern Michigan Eagles in the 68 Ventures Bowl? The South Alabama Jaguars finish with a winning season, going with a 59-10 win. And rounding out your bowl games from Saturday, you got Northwestern winning 14-7, and Northwestern coach should have won Coach of the Year. And then Coastal Carolina beating San Jose State in the Hawaii Bowl 24-14. So that was all the bowl games that happened on Saturday. But like I said, we have a good one in store for you guys here today. We have 11 bowl games. So with all those bowl games happening, what we're going to do is we're going to do a quick rundown of the first 9 bowl games that are going to happen. And then we are going to dive a little bit deeper into the Pop-Tarts Bowl between NC State and Kansas State. And of course, that Alamo Bowl, which I'm most excited about from now till Thursday between Arizona and Oklahoma. So there's going to be a lot happening here on this particular podcast today. I hope you guys are excited for it. And if you guys are excited for it as well, do me a favor, guys. Go ahead and hit that like button. Hit that subscribe button as well if you do happen to be brand new to the channel. And with so many bowl games that we have going on right now, let's not waste a singular moment. Let's go ahead and dive into those bowl games. Now, with there being so many bowl games to preview, and we are committed to doing every single bowl game here in the 2023 bowl season, for these first 9 bowl games, it's not going to be as comprehensive of a preview that you have seen from the previous bowl podcasts that I've done so far this year. It's going to be a little bit quicker, so just preparing you for that if you're expecting a bigger rundown for these first 9 bowl games that I'm going to talk about. This might not be the podcast for you. I'm sure there's somebody else out there that's going to preview these bowl games in a little bit more depth. So, with those expectations levels set, we have multiple bowl games that are happening on Tuesday. The first bowl game that is going to be happening on Tuesday, that is going to be your Quick Lane Bowl between Minnesota and Bowling Green. Now, Bowling Green, they are looking to kind of reverse their fortunes in the bowl season. Bowling Green has came in. They have lost 5 of their last 6 bowl games going back to 2004, but they've recently been to this very bowl game. The Quick Lane Bowl was somewhere that Bowling Green went to in the previous season. They lost to New Mexico State 24-19 last year, whereas Minnesota, they're led by their head coach, PJ Fleck, who historically has been really good in bowl games. Minnesota head coach and PJ Fleck, dating back to his time at Western Michigan, he's 5-2 in these bowl games. And as a program, Minnesota has handled their business as of late in these bowl games. They've won their last 6 bowl games after losing 7 in a row previously. That does also include a Pinstripe Bowl appearance last season for the Minnesota Golden Gophers, where they narrowly beat Syracuse 28-20. So, all that being said, let's go ahead and dive into what could be the difference maker in terms of who wins this quick lane bowl this year. Because ironically, Bowling Green and Minnesota actually got together as recently as 2021. This was not in the bowl season. This was actually a regular season matchup that happened in non-conference play. And it was a bizarre game back in 2021. Bowling Green was able to beat Minnesota 14-10. So Bowling Green does have history with this particular team and taking it down. So Coach Waffler, while he hasn't won a bowl game yet, he lost his first bowl game last year. He has been able to get this program to beat Power 5 teams before. But here's also some interesting history about this Minnesota team, right? So this Minnesota team, again, they are in here because former teams went to class. That's the reason why Minnesota is in here. We should have seen Army in here personally, but unfortunately, Army did not hit that 6-win threshold before the conference championship weekend. So that's why you see Minnesota in there, is because, well, there wasn't enough 6-win teams. Army did not get to that 6-win threshold before the conference championship weekend. And also, they have the highest academic progress rating of all the 5 and 7 teams. So that's how the NCAA decides who gets a bowl invite if you go 5 and 7. It's based off that APR rating. Minnesota does have the highest one. I heard someone say, like one of my coworkers right before I went on the holiday leave, saying that, oh, Minnesota got in because they're from a big conference, they're from a big market. No, that's wrong. That's absolutely wrong. And if someone tells you that, that's a casual take. That's how you can figure out who's the casuals are in your friend group. If someone says something like that. So Minnesota is in because they're 5 and 7. However, why we're not writing off Minnesota to lose this game necessarily is because these aren't the type of games that PJ Fleck loses. We talked about the bowl record for PJ Fleck. PJ Fleck is very good in these bowl games. And while this year's team for Minnesota is certainly not great, we don't want to even say that it's a good team this year. But they did roll Eastern Michigan. We did see them push past Louisiana. Those are two teams that went to bowl games from the group of 5. So, in other words, even with Minnesota being as offensively challenged that we have seen Minnesota this year, they don't really have their quarterback. The good news is that Minnesota should have an advantage at the line of scrimmage on both sides of the ball, and that should make a difference in what could very well be a low-scoring battle that could come down to field goals. And what also helps in Minnesota's favor is Minnesota has a very good kicker. We hardly talk about kickers on this podcast, but with it being so close, being so narrow-minded, Minnesota's Dragan Kasic, he's the kicker for Minnesota. He's 22 for 26 on field goals. He hasn't missed a single extra point. He clearly has the advantage over Bowling Green's kicker in Alan Anya, who, even though he has also made all of his extra points, he's only 12 for 17 on field goal tries. So if this comes down to a field goal game and it's a low-scoring battle like we think it's going to be, we think Minnesota will have the ultimate edge. So with the Quick Lane Bowl, the model actually is higher on the Bowling Green Falcons than we are. The model actually believes that Bowling Green is going to win this game. I disagree with that assessment. I do agree that it's going to be a really close game. So we are going to pick Minnesota to win this Quick Lane Bowl. However, Minnesota, we have them as a 3.5-point favorite right now. That is as of Christmas morning as well. We're going to have Bowling Green cover this. I think it is going to come down to maybe like a last-second field goal type deal, but we do think Minnesota is going to come out and win this Quick Lane Bowl. But I don't have a lot of confidence in this particular pick. We'll certainly put it in that type of lens. But we have even more bowl games happening on Tuesday. How about later on in that same Tuesday, the day after Christmas? This game is going to be airing on 5:30 at ESPN. This is the Civ Pro First Responders Bowl, and it pits two teams from the state of Texas up against each other, granted from different conferences, of course. Texas State and Rice. Yes, we do have food participating in a bowl game. This is Texas State's very first bowl game in school history. Texas State has not been very good at the FBS level since they've made the move up in the early 2010s. But GJ Kinn, first year at Texas State, has Texas State on the right track. You really utilize the transfer portal, kind of a similar approach that what Coach Prime used at Colorado. Only exception is Texas State went up against lesser competition than what Colorado had to go through. So Texas State, they got the bowl eligible. They hit 6 wins for their very first time. Could have their first winning season at the FBS ranks. You love to see that. Rice, on the other hand, Rice has been able to come out and get to bowling as well. They have a little bit more experience going to a bowl game. They're led by their coach, Mike Blumgreen, who is in their second bowl game in his time at Rice. That was the Lending Tree Bowl, where Southern Miss was able to beat Rice 38-24. So here we are, 2 seasons in a row where we've seen Rice go bowling. Thing about Rice is that Rice usually, they either win decisively or they get blown out decisively in bowl games. The last time there was a reasonably close bowl game that involves Rice was, you have to go all the way back to 1961. That was when they were in the Sugar Bowl against Ole Miss. That was the last time that a bowl game that Rice was in was not decided by 14 points or more. Now, could that change for the first time since 1961? It absolutely could. Because while Rice does not have their starting quarterback, JD Daniels has retired from football because of the medical concerns. AJ Patchett has stepped in, and AJ Patchett, he's ran the offense over the last few games anyways. He's done pretty well. 6 touchdown passes, 3 interceptions. He's hit 64% of his throws. So, yes, the backup quarterback is going to be playing for the Rice Owls. That being said, it shouldn't have a dramatic impact, whether it was going to be him or whether it's going to be the former 5-star and JD Daniels playing in this game. But this is also likely a game that you probably haven't sat down and watched these two teams play. Maybe like a full game, maybe you've seen a highlight or two, but for the most part, you probably have not seen either of these teams play for an extended period of time. Maybe Texas State, you might have caught the Baylor game, but that really is about it. With that being said, if you turn this bowl game on, I don't think you're going to be disappointed. This is the type of bowl game that you're going to turn it on, kick back, relax, and enjoy the show. Because you really never know what's going to happen. This could be a blowout. It could get ugly early. There could be the type of game where it's full of turnovers, weird plays, and maybe in the case of Texas State, lots of penalties because, well, Texas State has a lot of positives this year, and this should be considered a success. This Texas State team is not very disciplined. They are a team that has been penalized quite a bit this year. They're one of the worst penalized teams in all of college football at this higher echelon of Division I. This is also a case where you should see a lot of offense in this game. This could be a first of 40 type scenario, ends up winning this game. This could also be a scenario where teams could combine for about 1,000 yards of total offense. I'm not kidding. There are going to be a lot of big plays between these two teams. So expect that. Now, that being said, Rice, as of right now, Rice is considered a 3.5 point underdog against Texas State. But the model actually really loves Rice in this because the model believes that Rice has been a more consistent team in the American Conference than Texas State has been. So we're going to go with this. Not only do we believe that Rice is going to come out and cover that 3.5 point spread. We think Rice is going to win outright because we believe that Rice, being a more disciplined team than Texas State, I think that's going to be the ultimate difference at the end of the day. So we're going to go with Rice. We're going to go with Food covering in the First Responders Bowl and also winning outright here in this First Responders Bowl as well. Really excited to turn this game on. I can't wait to see how this plays out. Over, even though it's at like what, 60? Oh, let me pull it up real quick. Right now, it's at 60.5 as of the recording. So the 60.5 is definitely in play. Expect a lot of points in this one. So this this almost covers all the Tuesday bowl games. We actually have one more bowl game that's happening on Tuesday. It's a 9 Eastern kickoff on ESPN. It's taking place in Phoenix, Arizona. It's the Guaranteed Rate Bowl, which should be a more intriguing matchup as well. I'm really excited to see how this matchup plays out. It's between the Kansas Jayhawks and the UNLV Rebels. Now, UNLV is having a little bit of a Cinderella season. This is a UNLV team that you look at the outlook of UNLV, this could be a team that, if they have the right coach in place, and I think they do in Barry Odom, if Barry Odom chooses to stick around for a longer period of time, UNLV can be a constant competitor in the Mountain West, especially in this era of NIL. I mean, having the Vegas Strip in your backyard, you have that kind of stadium that UNLV is allowed to play in. To top it off, it's a great look for UNLV, and the outlook of UNLV football is really promising going over. But no matter what happens in this bowl game, UNLV has nothing to be ashamed about. This is a UNLV team that's only been to 4 bowl games before this one. This is the program's second bowl appearance since 2000, when they got to compete in the Las Vegas Bowl as well. However, Lance Leopold is also creating a Cinderella story of its own. Kansas has historically been bad outside of that Linsanity run in 2006 through 2008. But Kansas, they are in their 15th bowl game in program history. Their last bowl game being that 2022 Liberty Bowl shootout between Arkansas and Kansas, one that Arkansas barely won 55-53. So what times that we are living in, Kansas and UNLV both being in bowl games. Now, normally when you see a Power 5 team matched up with a smaller group of 5 program in a bowl game, you worry about that Power 5 team playing down to its level of competition, kind of being that little puffy chest, saying to yourselves, I can't believe we're going to play against just X team in our bowl season. But it's still Kansas, though. It's been forgotten. Shoot, just 2 years ago, Kansas went 2-10. They were one of the worst Power 5 teams in football just going back to 2020, 2021. They were down horrendous. Also, Kansas hasn't had a winning season since 2008, which was the last time that they've won a bowl game too. And specifically going back to Kansas, they haven't won more than 3 games from 2010 to 2021. So while we usually worry about whether a Power 5 team would play down to its level of competition against a Group of 5 squad in the bowl season, I don't think you're going to get that with Kansas here, because winning a bowl game at Kansas, in Loras, Kansas, it will be a really big deal for this program. And I think Kansas is going to play like that too. Jason Beam has been playing some high-level football. He doesn't have any more eligibility, but he was a backup quarterback for a couple years at Kansas. What he's shown the last couple of years, he's shown, hey, this is a kid that is a starting caliber quarterback at the Division I level. UNLV has been a wonderful story. Odom is a terrific head coach. But I just think Kansas is going to have too much offensive firepower in this one. So we will roll with Kansas here. And we're also going to go with Kansas covering against UNLV, covering that 12.5 point spread that we have going on. But again, congratulations on both these teams for having excellent seasons. Hopefully, both these teams can. I wish both these teams could come out on a high note. One team has to win, one team does have to lose. It is what it is. But we're going to go with Kansas winning and covering. And I think Kansas might be on the verge. We'll double check to see where Kansas is at. So, Kansas with a 9-win season potentially. That's a great year, especially at Warren's, Kansas. So that quickly wraps up your Tuesday bowl games, but Tuesday was just an appetizer for what's about to happen next. Because we have 4 bowl games that are happening on Wednesday, and then we have another 4 bowl games that are happening on Thursday as well. And on that Wednesday slate, it starts with a bowl game that I actually have been to before, back in like the mid 2010s when actually, ironically, Cincinnati went to play this Virginia Tech team, a game that Virginia Tech won against the Cincinnati Bearcats. I think this was back in like 2013, 2014, around that time. It was a long time ago. I was a lot younger and I still had a twinkle to my eye. But speaking of Virginia Tech, they are back in this bowl game, and it's really so Virginia Tech, they're bowl eligible. They're 6-6. They're going to be taking on an excellent Tulane team that went 11-2. They finish up as runners up of the American Conference. They finished behind SMU. However, Tulane is certainly not going to be at full strength for this Military Bowl, unfortunately. And that is because Tulane is going to miss their head coach. Willie Fritz has departed for Houston. They do have some opt-outs with some NFL caliber corners and other outside defenders. They are NFL opt-outs preparing for the NFL draft. They have a slew of receivers that are going to be missing as well. And their star quarterback, Michael Pratt, he is not going to play in this game either. So Tulane is not going to be at full strength for this upcoming bowl game. However, Virginia Tech on the other side, they're maybe not at full strength. Virginia Tech does have a few people that did end up entering the transfer portal, but it's not anybody that you would say or identify to yourself, hey, these are key guys. So Virginia Tech is close to full strength. Tulane is not. So no excuses for Virginia Tech to lose this game. However, it is a bowl game. Weird things have happened. Weird things have already happened in this bowl season, and weird things will probably continue to happen as we progress through the bowl season as well. Because we have seen both this year and in previous years as well, random backups rise up all the time. They become bowl legends. Teams come up with something quirky that works, and sometimes the extra prep work, the focus or even lack of focus, and a bunch of other factors, they come into play to make things really unpredictable. So we'll put it like this, though. Even with all that being said, if Virginia Tech loses this game, it would be one of the most disappointing performances of the bowl season. And it's not like it's not okay to lose a bowl game, because even if you lose a bowl game, it's still a super fun experience for the guys that do get an opportunity to play one more game with their fellow teammates. And it's mostly about the moment and the momentum going into the offseason. But for a Hokie program that was a regular on the bowl circuit from 1993 to 2019, they haven't won a bowl game since 2016. If you're Virginia Tech, losing to a good but not great group of 5 program, missing its head coach and its top players, that will hurt. But I do believe Virginia Tech, they're going to be balanced offensively. Their defensive line should take over in the second half, and it'll be a nice step forward in year 2 under Brent Pry to be able to, if they win this bowl game, have its first winning season since 2018. So because of the opt-outs that Tulane is going to be dealing with on the opposite side of the ball, we're going to roll with Virginia Tech here. And Virginia Tech, as a 10.5 point favorite over Tulane, We're also going to go with Virginia Tech covering this as well. We will be in agreement with the model. We think Virginia Tech wins by at least a couple of touchdowns over the Green Wave of Tulane. Man, how about that rapid fire though, man? I need to get some more water for myself. We'll see if we can power through though. That's going to be a hydration problem for Jake after this podcast tonight. Hope you guys are enjoying it. By the way, if you haven't hit that like button, please do. I truly would appreciate that from the bottom of my heart. Cause this next one that we have, this is going to be the first game that we see that is going to be specifically between two Power Five programs. It's the Duke's Mayo's Bowl between West Virginia and North Carolina. Now, North Carolina, this is a borderline home game. The game is taking place in Bank of America Stadium in Charlotte, North Carolina. Both of these teams are 8-4. So, realistically, North Carolina should have a favorable crowd to work with over the West Virginia Mountaineers. So that's the good news. The bad news is that North Carolina, well, one, they've been a bad bowl game. They have not been very good in recent history in its bowl games. They've lost 10 of their last 13 bowls. It's been a little bit rough for North Carolina in bowl season, and they're going up against coach Neil Brown, which dating back at his time at Troy, Neil Brown has been excellent in bowl season. He's only lost, I believe it was one bowl game. It was a 2021 Guaranteed Rate Bowl against Minnesota, ironically. 18-6 was the final score of that game. Not only has North Carolina not been very good in its bowl games as of late, we got to talk about the elephant in the room. Their NFL caliber quarterback in Drake May likely will be a first round pick. Well, he is not going to play in this game. Now, with that being said, who is the quarterback that will go ahead and possibly play in the bowl game? We're going to go ahead and take a look real quick to see who we might have. So the backup quarterbacks combined behind Drake May have a total of 7 pass attempts behind Drake May. But if we were to make a guess, Connor Harrell, a freshman, talented freshman, he's played in 3 games this year, and it seems like he has plenty of upside. Could be a starter for this program down the line. He's 4 for 6 this year. 4 for 6, 71 yards, and a touchdown. So he's very untested. So North Carolina, they're going to have to be real creative in terms of getting him going and make sure that they play complementary football if they're going to have a chance to win this game. But everyone is missing someone in this bowl season, right? There is rarely a team out there that is going to be 100% from what's happened with the transfer portal and NFL opt-outs, as well as medical retirements. But this is really one of the first bowls in this bowl season that has really been hammered significantly by those personnel losses, Drake May being one of them. North Carolina's absences are, of course, much worse. West Virginia, of course, is not 100% either. But North Carolina, especially with Drake May, those absences are significantly worse. This is where there has to be a bit of a pivot. And if North Carolina wants to win this game, time possession really does have to matter. And the offensive line for North Carolina, it should be okay. If they're able to run the ball and take pressure off of the passing game, they can give themselves a shot to win, because West Virginia is only 3-4 when they allow more than 135 yards on the ground. But West Virginia should be fine offensively, particularly if they can get their ground game going. There probably won't be anything flashy about this game. North Carolina, they're going to try to come out fast, but I think West Virginia is going to be able to go on long, sustained drives to control the narrative. So while we believe North Carolina will ultimately cover here, they're at 6.5 right now. We think North Carolina will cover. I don't think North Carolina is going to have enough to win this game, and I think Neil Brown he'll be able to get his second bowl win since taking that head coaching job at the University of West Virginia. Should be a close one, though. Speaking of teams that are not going to be at 100% possibly, we got to talk about this next bowl game that is going to be in place. You got Texas A&M taking on Oklahoma State in the Texas Bowl. This is a 9 p.m. kickoff in the Houston, Texas stadium. I just burped a little bit. That's sexy. But this is another one of those games where key parts are going to be missing on both sides. Now, that being said, Oklahoma State, they're going to be missing some parts, but you could argue that Texas A&M has been hit about as badly as any bowl team in the bowl season from top to down. However, they do, like North Carolina, they do have the advantage of not having to travel as far. It'll lack being a home game because Texas A&M doesn't have to travel nearly as far as Oklahoma State. So you have that going for you. You also have the recent history for Texas A&M in bowl games. Texas A&M, they have won its last 3 bowl appearances. They have also won 7 of their last 10 bowl games that they participated in. And Oklahoma State historically has played in really close bowl games themselves. The last 5 bowl games that Oklahoma State has participated in, they've all been decided by 1 score. So history suggests that even with Texas A&M missing the key pieces that's missing, they do have a little bit more of a shot to make this a close game. And while Texas A&M is missing its key pieces, they have been able to retain many of the other guys on the roster. And people forget that even though Texas A&M had a disappointing year, they didn't reach their potential under Jimbo Fisher. But Texas A&M has a huge advantage in terms of the star talent than Oklahoma State. Oklahoma State doesn't have the horses that Texas A&M has. It just hasn't been utilized. So Texas A&M still has the guys. Their starting 22 that comes out on the field, they're going to be able to hang around with Oklahoma State. They just might need a little bit of help. So if they can get that help, if they're able to force a turnover or two, even though Texas A&M is going to be a little bit short-handed, I actually do like them over Oklahoma State here. We're going to go with Texas A&M to win this game outright. And because the line is so small, it's at 1.5. We think that Texas A&M should be able to cover this if they win. It's going to be very hard to see them win and not cover, right? But yeah, man. So more to come on the bowl season. I told you it's going to be rapid fire. I told you that the rapid fire was coming. We are already closing in on the final bowl game that's supposed to happen here in the Wednesday slate. The Wednesday night games are the nightcap is an 8 p.m. kickoff game that will take place in the former home of the San Diego Chargers, now playing in Los Angeles. You got USC finished a disappointingly 7-5, taking on a 10-3 Louisville team. Louisville, the runners-up of the ACC. Now, elephant in the room, we know that Caleb Williams is not going to be playing in this game. USC is also going to miss their leading rusher in Marshawn Lloyd, their leading touchdown receiver in Brandon Rice. They're missing a slew of rotational parts for defense, for sake of depth, and defensively, well, defensively, one of the worst teams in the entire Power 5. They suck defensively. They have been horrendous. If it wasn't for Caleb Williams playing in those regular season games, we might not be talking about them in a bowl game right now. It's been bad. It's been horrendous defensively for USC. So Who is even going to start for USC? Because their backup quarterback is also in the transfer portal as well. We're gonna make the guess that Miller Moss is gonna play for USC. I would imagine that we would see him in the game. He's played in 3 games this year, but he hasn't seen the field since September 9th. Uh, to be fair, though, when we have seen him in games, all of which have been in blowouts, he's been good. He's been playing some good ball, 300 yards, touchdown through the air. He also does have a couple of rushing touchdowns to his name as well, mainly down by the goal line. That's the only time he's been able to get a shot to run it. So if you're Louisville, all you have to do is do a decent job offensively. You should be fine. You should be able to come out and win this game. And Louisville should win too. Louisville has a solid defense, and that solid defense is going up against an untested quarterback. And the Louisville offense, it should be able to hit those mid-range passes to keep everything moving. And like I said, it's USC. Defensively, they're going to allow more than 400 yards. It's kind of a it's kind of a conclusion. That's the word that I'm looking for. We're strong with the words here this morning. But I will say though, I think USC does keep it competitive. Because everyone is down on Trojans, and rightfully so, losing 5 of their last 6 games, and there's always a concern that they might just go for the motions, just to get ready for 2024. But we have seen Louisville play up or down the competition. I do believe that USC is missing a little bit too much. I believe the main way that USC wins this game is getting some turnovers. And I'm talking about a significant number of turnovers, like getting 3 takeaways. But I just don't see that happening. I think Louisville bounces back from their tough loss in the ACC championship. And while we don't think that Louisville will cover their current 7-point favorite, we do think USC is going to win this DirecTV Holiday Bowl because USC is, to me, it's just missing too much to really realistically be comfortable with the idea of them winning this bowl game. But now we get ourselves comfortable with the Thursday games that are going to be happening. And you want to be falling in love with some Thursday morning action? We're going to be blessed with some Thursday morning action. Thursday game in Fenway Park, up in Boston, Massachusetts. Next year, this is going to actually be an ACC conference game. SMU, of course, making the jump from the American Conference to the ACC following at the end of the season. SMU taking on a Boston College team that is making their first bowl game under Jeff Hafley. This is the first bowl game that Boston College has made since 2020. And that was a game where Cincinnati blew out Boston College 38-6. Boston College has not been good as of late in bowl games. They've lost 7 of their last 8, but SMU hasn't been great in bowl games either. They lost their last three bowl games, and they've allowed a significant number of points. They've averaged allowing 42 points a game. However, we don't think that really Boston College has that kind of offense. So here's the thing. If Boston College wants to win this game, if they want to pull this upset off in the Wasabi Fenway Bowl, the Boston College offensive front has to take over. It has to be one of these games where Boston College has to win at the line of scrimmage and get multiple methodical drives that lead to points. Limit the number of opportunities that SMU can score, because SMU can score in a hurry. And there's going to be a huge problem if SMU does build a 10 to 14 point lead, because Boston College is not an offense that is built to come back from behind. They can't throw the ball. They really have not been good. Thomas Castellanos, he's been fine for Boston College, but he's good for multiple interceptions in this game, I would imagine. Um, but he is a decent runner. He does lead the team in rushing. Um, but yeah, he's going to need some help around him in order for them to have a shot to win. Because also, if you look at the other side, Boston College hasn't really, I don't really envisioning them getting into the backfield for SMU. That's not even the biggest issue. It really is about whether or not the home team in this Fenway Bowl can get its own stuff to work. Um, we'll see what happens there. But I think it'll be one of those games where SMU, they're going to get off to a fast start. And because we believe that SMU is going to get off to a fast start, I think this is a scenario where you're really looking at this from a runaway game standpoint. I personally am not giving Boston College much of a chance. And I think Jeff Hafley having that strong finish is actually going to hurt the Boston College program from the get-go. I know a lot of Boston College fans that are not that happy with Jeff Hafley. They are tired of mediocrity. And unfortunately, with him going to this bowl game, ironically, this might set Boston College back a few years until they inevitably end up firing this guy. So we think SMU wins. We think SMU also is going to win convincingly here, and they're going to be your winners of the Fenway Bowl. So one more game that we wanted to talk about in terms of this little bit of a rapid fire here. And that last bowl game is the Bad Boy Mowers Pinstripe Bowl. It's going to also be taking place in the Northeast. This is not at Fenway Park, but it is going to be at another separate baseball stadium. This one is going to be at Yankee Stadium, and it's going to pit the Miami Hurricanes taking on the Scarlet Knights of Rutgers. Rutgers is led by their head coach, Greg Schiano. And Greg Schiano is a guy that knows how to win in these bowl games. He's 5-2 historically in bowl games. He knows how to find a way to win at Rutgers. He's arguably the best coach ever in the history of Rutgers football because in his 2 stints of the program, he's coached in 7 of the 11 bowl games that Rutgers has ever participated in. However, they're going up against a Miami team, a good Miami team that is trending in the right direction. They're led by Mario Cristobal, who isn't too shabby himself. First bowl game that Miami is going to since 2020 when they lost in the Cheez-Its Bowl 37-34 to Oklahoma State. Miami has not been great in bowl games themselves. They've lost 10 of their last 11 bowl games going back to 2006. But Miami does have a significantly more talented team than what Rutgers has on the other side. Granted, I think Greg Schiano does have the coaching advantage over Mario Cristobal, but does Greg Schiano, can he overcome the talent differential between Miami and Rutgers? If Rutgers is going to find a way to win this game, Rutgers, they absolutely must get takeaways. Rutgers is 4-2 when coming over multiple takeaways, and Miami, with the talent that they have, a big reason why they've kind of had this mediocre season at 7-5 is that they turn the ball over quite a bit, especially in ACC conference play. Especially if they turn the ball 4 times or more, Miami is 0-3. So if you're Rutgers, you're really looking at least 3 turnovers from Miami if Rutgers is going to win this one. But as long as Miami doesn't screw up and they win the field position battle, the Miami Hurricanes, they should win this. They should win it. But if those turnovers start to become a factor, if Rutgers actually is even or they're winning the field position battle, what Rutgers will have the ability to do is Rutgers will grind away, trying to get those methodical possessions. But that being said, I just think even though I just don't see Miami being that sloppy, right? Van Dyke is not playing in this game, but Van Dyke was a huge factor for Miami this year, and there's a reason why he's transferring away for a reason. Ja'Cory Brown's going to play. He might make mistakes, but he also might make enough wow plays to win this game for me personally. So the line for this is actually really close. Miami is a 1.5 point favorite over Rutgers. We're going to say, while we don't think it's the 18-point win that the model is suggesting, we do think that Miami wins this. And we do also think that Miami is going to cover this reasonably as well. But because I just think Miami just has too much talent to not win again. And even though they've been bad historically as of late in bowl games, just because you haven't done something recently just doesn't mean you can't. And I think that trend is reversed. Give me Miami over Rutgers in the Bad Boy Mowers Pinstripe Bowl. So we got the rapid fire officially done and out of the way. And now we get to our very first couple of bowl games that will actually feature a matchup between two Power 5 programs. The first one that I wanted to talk about is that Pop-Tarts Bowl. Side note, the Pop-Tarts Bowl, I believe this is the first bowl game that features an edible mascot. I'm pretty sure I saw that on Twitter. Someone could confirm that for me in the comment section. That would be great. But the Pop-Tarts Bowl should be a good matchup. NC State is going to take on Kansas State in this Pop-Tart Bowl. It's going to be a 5:45 kickoff on ESPN. This is, of course, happening on Thursday, December 28th. And quietly, NC State has put together a really good season under their head coach, Dave Dorian. The Wolfpack has been a team that's kind of flew under the radar this season after they lost their first game or two, because there wasn't really any monster games, and they also weren't really in the ACC title chase. But a win in this particular bowl game is going to be the program's very first double-digit win season since their 2002 squad ended up going 11-3. And while this isn't a very explosive team by any means, if you're not very explosive, you got to do a good job of this other thing as well. You have to be good at not turning the ball over. You also have to be a rock solid defensive team, particularly on third downs. And you also have to be fantastic at controlling the tempo, which is actually exactly what NC State does. They're a non explosive team that is good carrying the ball, they're good defensively, and they are a very good tempo type team. So, in a lot of ways, NC State should be able to handle the style of plays that Kansas State likes to play by playing like Kansas State. Now, can NC State play better in Kansas State style of game of play than Kansas State? Well, that's an interesting question. But because while the Wildcats, they live on third downs, they live on that running game and time of possession. NC State is more than happy to play along with that, like limiting those possessions, and they have more parts to do it because Kansas State is missing some significant pieces in this bowl game. Will Howard is gone. He's in the transfer portal. Their offensive coordinator, Colin Klein, he's now going to be the offensive coordinator at Texas A&M. He follows Mike Elko out there. Their second leading rusher in Trayvon Ward is also in the portal. And their top catch receiver in Phillip Brooks, he's going to be off to the NFL along with Ben Simmett, who actually led the team in receiving yards this year. Plus, their secondary also going to be missing a couple of key guys as well. NC State, on the other hand, they're only losing mainly rotational players in the portal. So for the most part, this should be just as close as a full-strength Power 5 team as you are going to see in a non-playoff bowl game. So if NC State doesn't turn the ball over, they win that time possession, they should be fine. So if you're Kansas State, you got to thrive on those takeovers. You got to find a way to take the ball away. But because even though Kansas State, they haven't been all that great in bowls lately, there's no secret how rough it's been for the bowl games. Kansas State has failed to score more than 20 points in any of their last 4 bowl games. So Kansas State, they haven't been great in these bowl games, and there's no secret in that. But they do bring the effort. even if it always doesn't have the guys necessarily. No, Will Howard isn't going to be playing. However, Kansas State does have Avery Johnson. He is a very good backup. He is the future of this program. He does have a little of experience, and he has the running ability to make the NC's defensive front really be worried. He is a definition of a dual threat quarterback. They won't put a ton of big pass plays on his shoulders, but the freshman has been solid for what he's been able to do when he's been provided the opportunity to play. So, Kansas State, kind of the same thing that NC State needs to do if they want to win. They have to control that clock. But that's what NC State does too. Both of these teams are also fantastic defensively on third downs, but the Wildcats are far better at keeping things moving on the offensive side of the ball. Avery Johnson, with his legs at the very least, can keep it all going. And Kansas State, they have to get those turnovers. And for job one for Avery Johnson, don't turn the ball over yourself. The offense has only turned it over multiple times in 2 games this year, Oklahoma State and Texas. They lost both of those games. So if Kansas State has 2 giveaways, they're likely going to be coming out as losers of this Poptarts bowl game. So, all that considered, Kansas State and NC State are very similar teams. So I wouldn't be too terribly surprised if this is a much closer game than what the model says. The model is very high on Kansas State. They have them as 15-point favorites. Because NC State, their way of winning is basically Kansas State style of play, we're going to lean Kansas State here, and we're going to have them cover as well, just because we believe at the end of the day, even without the key pieces, Kansas State, they will have enough effort. I think Avery Johnson is an underrated quarterback. I think Kansas State gets it done, and they end up winning here in this Pop-Tarts Bowl against North Carolina State. But it'll be close, and it'll be a bowl game that I will 100% tune into as well, especially with this being a ranked matchup. And so is the other ranked matchup that's supposed to happen on Thursday night. This will be after the Pop-Tarts Bowl. This is a 9:15 kickoff, so you might lose some sleep if you watch this game, but I think it will definitely be worth it though. It's the Valero Alamo Bowl between Arizona and Oklahoma. Down in San Antonio, Texas, Arizona, they are rolling under Jedd Fisch. You want to talk about one of the best teams in the second half of the season? Arizona is definitely one of them. They are definitely up there. And then Oklahoma with Brent Venables. They went 6-7 in his first year. They lost in that Cheez-Its Bowl to Florida State. But Oklahoma is now creating some momentum as they prepare to move on over to the SEC. So I think these two teams are very well matched, but we'll talk about the slight. Are they favorites? Yes, they are actually favorites. We'll talk about the slight favorites in here first in terms of what they need to do to win this game. Because how fun has this turnaround been? Because there's no reason why Arizona can't and shouldn't be good at college football. It might be a basketball school, at least in the regular season, but that might have been a little too soon. But this football side hasn't seen a winning season since 2017. But you win this game, you have your second 10-win campaign since the 12-1 team went 1998. So how has it been able to get going all of a sudden? And even then, Arizona was not expected to be in a bowl game. But not only are they here, and they are ranked in the top 25. Likely will be ranked regardless of what happens in this matchup in the Alamo Bowl. It took a few years for Coach Jedd Fisch to get it together. But the lines are working well now, and Noah Fafita, he's taking over in the middle of the season. He's emerged as a freshman superstar. He's a huge reason why this team has been able to come out and be a lot better than what people were expecting them to be, because the three losses that Arizona has, Mississippi State, Washington, USC, two of them are in bowl games, one of whom is in the college football playoff. All of them are for one-score games. They've been great on third downs. The passing game is ultra efficient, and the mistakes have rarely happened. Arizona, in their first three games of the season, they turned the ball over 8 times in the first 3 games. But then the last 9 games, they've only turned over the ball 5 different times. However, more than anything else, it is about the personnel. Arizona has some losses throughout the transfer portal, have been minimum, and the NFL opt-outs, while painful, are an overall plus. You want players good enough to be able to bolt early to the next level. On the flip side, Oklahoma has been hammered with losses. They lost Jeff Lebby. He is now going to be the new head coach at Mississippi State, so they won't have him. The offensive line has been hit hard for Oklahoma. The running back depth for the Sooners has been thinned out. And Dylan Gabriel, he's off to Oklahoma. So if you're Arizona, you just got to do what you've been doing. Continue to be efficient on offense with your passing game. Take good care of the ball. You know those two things, you might be a winner chicken dinner for this Alamo Bowl. But that being said, with Oklahoma, yes, they do have all of those losses. But you do get a chance to see Jackson Arnold play. And Jackson Arnold is a real X factor, because Jackson Arnold, we haven't seen a ton of him this year. But if he's what many people are saying that he's going to be, this Denton, Texas product, he could be the future face of Oklahoma football. And he has a real chance to really cement himself as the starting quarterback going into 2024, going into the SEC as well. And he's been fine in his 5 games he's played in as well. 200 yards, 2 passing touchdowns. He has a completion percentage of 75% in his limited action. Granted, many have been blowouts, but for all intents and purposes, Jackson Arnold, we are really going to see what he can do with all of his preparation that he's been had with the extra bowl practices, knowing that he's going to be the starter. This is a great quarterback recruit, former 5-star, that's worked behind Dylan Gabriel, and now it's time to make his program his. And if he struggles, well, obviously it opened things up. But you know what? We're going to see what Jackson Arnold's all about. There's still plenty of parts around to pull this off, even with so many key losses. And it starts with a defense that is among one of the best in the nation at taking the ball away, helped by making a ton of plays in the backfield. As great as Arizona has been, it also doesn't necessarily take the ball away. And partly because of Fafita's style, it also has allowed too many tackles for loss. So with that said, while I believe Oklahoma does have a legitimate shot to win this game, I think this is going to be a shootout. I expect a shootout here. Like, let's just go ahead and jump right into it. If this is not a shootout, I would be incredibly surprised. But I think Oklahoma just has too many losses from the transfer portal. I think Arizona is at close to full strength. And even with that, we believe that if both these teams were at full strength, we would still favor Arizona. So because Arizona has more parts than Oklahoma right now, we're going to go with Arizona winning, and we will go with Arizona covering over the Oklahoma Sooners here in the Alamo Bowl. But even though it's a late night game, it's worth the watch. I hope you guys stay up with me, because it's going to be a fun one. Gear up. So that covers all the bowl games that are going to be happening here over the course of this upcoming week, at least from now till Thursday. Now, we'll go ahead and show what we got going on with how we did with betting, right? Because what I always like to do is I like to give out my best bets, like for the next couple of days. And this Saturday, we struggled on Saturday. This is one of the worst weeks that we've had We only ended up going 1 for 4. It was a rough look for us. That includes James Madison losing the Air Force, although they did hit the over. Troy and Duke did not amass enough points. And then San Jose State not only did not cover, but they also lost outright to Coastal Carolina by double digits as well. So, how do we bounce back? Because last night we took an L, but tonight we're going to bounce back on this Christmas night. So, here are my 4 best bets for this week. I'm not going to really dive into the methodology because you just heard all about all the bowl games I'm going to talk about. We're going to start with SMU minus 10.5. I really like them over Boston College. I think they handle their business with ease. A nice audition for the ACC next year. I'm also going to go with Texas A&M minus 1.5. If you want to money line this, I'm perfectly okay with that, with the line being so thin. But for to keep things consistent, we're going to go with Texas A&M minus 1.5. And then food. We believe food is going to take care of business against the Bobcats. We think Rice covers their current 3.5 point spread. I actually put a bet slip in a couple of days ago when at the time Rice is at 5.5. So there's not as much value as there was previously, but we still like Rice at plus 3.5. We think there's a good cover value here. And following that NC State and Kansas State game, I think that we're going to see more points than anticipated. Both teams actually been pretty explosive in their last 5 games between the both of them. And we're going to, this over a 47.5 between Kansas State and North Carolina State. I think we will end up seeing the over at 47.5. So those are my 4 best bets of this week. Hopefully we do better than what we did last time out. Here's hoping for the best. But with that being said, guys, I'm going to go ahead and sign on out here. I hope you guys have a Merry Christmas as well as a happy holiday season, regardless of what you choose to celebrate, regardless of what your religion is. I'm your host, Jake. I'm going to sign off here on the Any Given Saturday podcast, but I hope you guys have a good one. If you enjoyed this whole podcast, if you made it all the way through, you're a real MVP. I truly do appreciate that. If you do appreciate the content, make sure to go ahead and smack that like button for me. Hit that subscribe button as well if you do happen to be brand new to the channel. I'm your host, Jake, of Any Given Saturday, signing off. Well, I hope you guys are all out there having a good one. Take care, everybody.